If nothing else, heavy duty has at least caused bodybuilders to start thinking. No longer do bodybuilders accept someone's training routines or diet regimen just because he has won some titles. We know by now that in the great majority of cases, it's a superior genetic predisposition that was responsible for the development of most champions. But let's go further than questioning any one individual's training practices and go right to the foundation of conventional training. Where is it ordained, for instance, that one repetition must be followed immediately by another? Who says that a weight should be used in one's exercises that is light enough or heavy enough to allow for the performance of 10 repetitions? Such questions are, of course, rhetorical, as we realize there are really no such rigid rules. And even further, these questions imply that most of us train according to tradition, convention, and imitation. No one has ever scratched in stone that one rep must immediately follow another. It just seems the natural thing to do, so why do otherwise? And what the heck, 10 is a nice, easy, round number, so why not do 10? It is a well-known point at this time that intensity of effort is the single most important factor influencing the rate of skeletal muscle growth. Muscular effort imposes a stress on our muscles and overall physical systems, which causes us to adapt to that particular stress by developing larger and stronger muscles. And as we adapt to a certain level of training stress, such as a beginner on a basic conventional routine, by growing and getting stronger, increasingly higher levels of stress are required if we desire to continue progressing. Continuing to perform tasks or lift weights that are already well within our existing capabilities will do little, if anything, to stimulate progress. Muscular growth, you must realize, is a defense against the stress of intense muscular effort. And muscular growth will cease when the effort you are generating in your workouts is no longer intense enough to threaten the body sufficiently to cause it to defend itself. That may sound a little technical and theoretical, but I think it makes sense when you think about it. For the beginner, almost any type of training is stressful enough or intense enough to induce adaptation through size and strength increases. Going from no training at all to any type of training, even a low or moderate intensity type, represents a dramatic increase in the stress intensity that the beginner's body is normally exposed to on a day-to-day routine basis. And for a while, this will cause him to progress. Merely by adding weight to his exercises and by resting for shorter periods of time, that is, doing the same workout in less time, the beginner and intermediate bodybuilder will progress. As the beginner progresses, however, and the intermediate bodybuilder, to a more advanced stage by adding muscle, the formula becomes more and more complex due to the changes in his physiology that attend muscular growth. The larger your muscles get, the greater become the demands imposed on your body's resources and reserves during these intense muscular contractions. Physiologists have discovered that the average individual has the capacity to increase his strength and hence his ability to generate intensity by some 300%, while his ability to recover from intense stress, on the other hand, only increases by 50%. So, as we get bigger and stronger, the likelihood of overtraining increases dramatically. Many bodybuilders, or most bodybuilders, however, pursue a type of training that is just the opposite of the way it should progress. Rather than increase the intensity of their effort and reduce the duration of their effort as they progress, they do just the opposite. They decrease the intensity of their effort and prolong the duration of their effort. In other words, as they continue to progress, they think they have to make their workouts longer and longer. And invariably, what has to happen, because of the nature of the relationship between intensity and duration, the intensity decreases and their progress slows down or comes to a halt altogether. Well, about 1.5 years ago, I had reached an impasse in my progress. Though I was training in my usual fashion, that is very heavy with all-out effort each and every set, I couldn't seem to add much in the way of additional mass. Discussing this thoroughly with a stress physiologist, I discovered that my body had adapted to a certain level of intensity and to certain methods, namely pre-exhaustion and forced rep training. The problem was that now I was so strong and my ability and willingness to generate maximum effort so dramatically increased that each rep of a normal 6-repetition set was severe enough that the oxygen debt and lactic acid buildup was immediate from the first rep and prevented a maximum all-out effort at the end. What I needed was a method that provided for intense maximal contractions while slowing the buildup of metabolites and the onset of oxygen debt, which prevent ultra-intense effort. The method that fulfilled these requirements was rest-pause training. With rest-pause training, I warm up a given area thoroughly first by doing a couple of sets with a lighter weight leading up to the heavy weight, then select the weight for the first repetition of the set that is a maximum for a single attempt. Of course, this ensures maximum intensity of effort. After performing that first all-out rep, I put the weight down and rest for a maximum of 10 seconds to allow for the oxygen debt to right itself and to allow the waste products to exit the muscle. This will allow my second repetition with the same weight to be another all-out maximum intensity rep. You will need a partner for rest-pause training, obviously, as you may not be quite able to do a complete second rep without his assistance. And be sure that such assistance is just enough so you are barely able to complete that second rep. After the second rep, put the weight down again and rest for 10 seconds. By this time, however, the weight should be reduced by probably 20% so you can do at least one full rep by yourself. After 10 seconds rest, pick up the reduced weight and perform another deliberate controlled rep. Rest again before the fourth rep, maybe up to 15 seconds now as you'll be very fatigued, and do the fourth rep with your partner's assistance. I wouldn't try to do more than 4 or 5 reps at the very most in rest-pause fashion, as it is very, very intense and demanding. So demanding that you really can't appreciate it until you try it. You must realize that with rest-pause training, every single rep of the set is an all-out maximum effort, not just the final rep as is the case with conventional methods. This is what makes it so different and so productive. The intensity has taken a quantum leap upwards. I would also recommend no more than 1 set per exercise in rest-pause fashion for the same reason. Remember, I can't stress it enough, the higher the intensity, the greater the likelihood of overtraining. Remember that once you induce muscular growth stimulation through hard training, you must allow that growth to take place. If you're constantly overtraining and not giving yourself enough time between workouts to recover, how can you expect to grow? Remember, you've got to recover first. Growth takes place secondarily. I would also suggest that you do not do more than a total of 3 sets per body part. You can also incorporate rest-pause into your normal heavy-duty routine. For instance, when training your chest, you might do 1 set of incline presses, rest-pause style, and then proceed with 1 or 2 cycles of pre-exhaustion with forced reps and negatives and so forth. If you desire to try rest-pause exclusively, don't continue the program more than 4 to 6 weeks, as it is as mentally demanding as it is physically and can cause you to burn out and lose motivation. However, if you decide to use rest-pause, stick to the fundamental heavy-duty concepts. Number 1, perform all movements very deliberately and under control. Don't try to yank, jerk, or bounce heavy weights. That's what causes injury to the joints. Lifting heavy weights does not cause injury. It is when you try to bounce, jerk, and thrust the heavy weights by using the force of momentum that you injure the connective tissue. Number 2, always emphasize the negative or the lowering of the weight. There are those exercise physiologists who believe that the great majority of the benefit to be derived from weight training is had from the negative aspect of the rep, that is lowering the weight. Number 3, keep your sets low. Never do more than 5 sets per body part. As you continue to progress, I suppose it's somewhat natural to want to add more and more to your workout because your enthusiasm is growing and your energy is burgeoning. However, perhaps the most important exercise you can perform is the exercise of restraint. Restrain that tendency to always want to do more. Remember, your body has to recover, and when you do too many high-intensity sets, you're not going to give your body enough time to recover between workouts. Number 4, never train more than 4 days a week, and in some cases, even 4 days out of every 7 days is too much training. What should guide you is how much progress you're making. If you don't realize immediate progress from heavy-duty training or rest-pause training, then you're probably not giving yourself sufficient time to recover. The intensity of effort involved with heavy-duty training is more than sufficient to induce growth stimulation. So if in fact you aren't realizing such progress, then you're not giving yourself enough time to recover between workouts and grow as well. Maybe training 4 days out of every 9 or 10 days would be better. Again, these things aren't preordained. They're not scratched in stone. No one ever said you had to set up your training routine according to a rigid 7-day-a-week schedule. Maybe 4 days out of every 10 days would be best. If the intensity is sufficient, then the only other factor that can be blamed for your not realizing more progress is not sufficient time to recover between workouts.